Okay. Okay. So this is going to be our initial prayer, and Paul is going to be doing it. Not the prayer, but preparation for the prayer. There's the first reading. So all is in the open up this one here. Sorry. Yes or no? We have that. We have read that already. These are the questions that we covered last time. Okay, now we are on the right page, right? Because I thought it was a flashback, because I've already seen that, like a deja vu. Okay, so Paul, it's up to you. So you'll do the reading, then you just make some comments, and that's our opportunity to focus and start thinking on our meeting and forget a little bit the surroundings and what you're bringing from Saturday and the whole week. Thank you, Paul. Go ahead.
I'll, I'll do the reading now. I'll start the reading, or we're gonna pray first.
Reading
No,
first,
you
Paul.
read, then you pray. Yeah? Okay.
This is the one that JC gave me.
Isn't that
It's
what
about
No
It-
good.
it's about
But can you see on the screen?
Timothy,
Can you see on the screen?
yes, but what he's saying is that David forwarded Word document with the reading. So I forwarded it to
Okay.
Paul. So I think he's saying it's different from what you're
It is
showing on the
different
screen.
from number 4.
Yeah,
So which one did you receive? Sorry.
the number one.
Number 1?
Timothy chapter 2, verse 7.
Let me see. Did you receive
Sorry,
this
Carlo,
That will
one
be
these
the
are
here?
first
really
one
bad,
that you.
Do you
background.
receive this one here? In the light of the lesson?
Yeah, that's it.
Carlo,
Oh, there.
in the box because we cannot find it.
Excuse me?
It's there in the box because we cannot find it.
Yeah, Paul's connection is not good.
Yeah, it's raining heavily in our place. It's raining heavily. We got intermittent signal.
Let's try to mute our phones to see if it's going to be improving his connection. And Paul, would you like to do number 1, or may I proceed to number 4? Because number 1 we covered. There's no problem if we repeat. Do you feel comfortable doing number 4, or you rather prefer doing number 1 that you received?
I do prefer the number 1.
Okay. There is no problem because
All right.
it's never too much to repeat in manuals. So let's do number 1.
Okay. Living Spring by the Spirit Manual, number 1, the light of the lesson. Consider well what I am telling you, for the Lord will give you understanding in everything. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 7. In the light of an exposition of truth, remember to ponder the lesson you have received. Those who glance up at the sky without contemplating it will never really see the stars. Those who listen to a symphony without opening up the acoustics of their soul will never receive his divine notes. All right, that will be the first. I'll try to explain a little what I understand about it. we have to, it says here that we have to contemplate in everything that we receive, or everything, every lessons that we have read, and let think, let us think of what is the meaning. What, how am I going to apply this in my everyday living? And what would be the lesson with regards to my evolution or advancement? And how we can all benefit from all these revelations? It's it is written that letters can kill, the thought or the spirit gives life. So, uh, and everything that we receive have meaning, and we could go deeper by opening up our spirit. And uh, it is also said that, and it is written that we have to seek yet and you will find, knock, and the door will be open to us. Meaning, uh, it is not in our own understanding, but it will be given to us by the Holy Spirit for our guidance. That makes it more a little nearer to what is the truth. Lord will give us understanding in everything. As Allan Kardec said, unshakable faith is only that which can place reason in all human effort. And it will be based on our acquired knowledge and understanding, the searching and listening, and God, our gathered wisdom, that we can truly understand what could be the gist of what is, that is given to us in compliance with the God's law or the natural law. Countless follower listening to the inspired word of ardent preachers, do you no good whatsoever, you do not open your heart. All that we will be opening up our hearts and sentiments, we will be immersed into blessed life. Countless followers of the gospel complain about their individual authority, its teaching, claiming to be unfit in the light of new revelations. This is because they do not spend enough time meditating on the lessons, whereas they spend too much time on distraction and frivolity. It's not too serious about it. When the room is too dark, it is up to us to open the windows to let the sun shine in. If we will dedicate a little effort to the blessings of the lesson will answer us with its blessing. The apostle to the Gentiles is very clear when it says, consider what I am telling you, for the Lord will give you understanding in everything. To consider means to examine, hear, reflect, and evaluate. Therefore, you can be sure that in paying attention to the principles of the code of eternal life, the Lord will reward our good will by giving us understanding in everything. That would be it. And what comes to my mind is that we should contemplate and ponder everything that we have read, we have gathered, and we need to search a little more and to explain it in our own understanding and discernment, and let's question uh, a little bit. What is the best way I can relate it to others so that we all together work it, for we are work in progress, and to be an effective medium to others so that we all together advance. That would be it. Thank you.
Paul, sorry, but hardly could I hear you from my place. I don't know the other ones, right? And also, for some reason, I don't see your image in my computer. I don't know why. Right? So sorry
Yeah.
for interrupting
It's
that.
all, yeah, there is a heavy rain outside and
Okay,
it's get a little interference.
okay. Would you mind? Would you mind, for the sake of everybody listening, if I hold the prayer today? If I can do it?
Sure. Thank you. Sure.
Yeah, because it is really breaking a lot. So let's just concentrate a little bit more and elevate our mind, our thought. Thank Jesus and all the spirits that are together with us in this moment. Please allow us to open our heart and mind. Allow us to grasp the most of our reading and discussion that will follow, so that we can change our life and help other people to change towards development and towards the purification process way to God. So be it.
So be it.
He's got to turn
So
off.
Paul, can you mute your phone, Paul? There you
Yeah,
go.
what I was
Yes,
about to say.
that's it. His sound is no good.
Okay.
The
Okay.
interference is gone.
Okay. I'm gonna remember that we start with one because he has received the first chapter, so I don't like him to read the fourth one and not being prepared for that, and he had prepared for the first one. So we are going to just move forward here. I'm just clicking here, not to. This is what we have covered so far. Questions from last time. This was expected to be, we're going to be doing this next time, right? And I'm trying to enlarge here my screen so that I can see if, I know that David is in because he sent me a message, right?
Yep, they're there.
So Carlos, this is number 4 from Living Spring.
Yes, this was expected to be number 4 today, but we haven't covered. Okay, so we haven't read this number 4. We had just the opportunity to touch again the first topic, and we have different people also today. So another opportunity to revise and see it. And I'm just skipping, and this is going to be our starting point here. For some
right.
reason,
So
I'm
if I
not
may,
able to enlarge.
may I volunteer to read number 4 next week then?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I'd like to see. I'm trying to reach the screen here to see Dave, but I'm really. Let's go again here.
Carlos, if you just stop share a minute, you should see the full. Just stop. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the only way you can see everybody. When you
Okay.
there's a lot of us as well, 20 of us or so, 19.
No, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Right. So we are going to be we're going to be resuming from the number 2, slide number 2, right? And would you like to take it from here, there, or I continue, Dave?
No, Carlos, you continue. Your week this week, my week next.
Okay. No, because I've seen that you added some slide and would like to make some comments, right?
I'll make a comment. Yeah,
I'll
I'll
leave
some
room for
comments
that.
on later on. It's in the
I'll
slide.
leave room for that. That is perfect. So we are here And let's see, Carol, can you read number 2 to us? Because that's the point that now Kardec is going to be speaking to us. Last time we just used our own knowledge to answer the question. Now he's going to be answering the question that he posed before as part of his Socratic or Mutic method, right? He's going to be going through the word revelation. Please, Carol.
Let us first define the meaning of the word revelation. To reveal from the Latin revelare, whose root is velum, veil, literally means to go out from under the veil, and figuratively it means to discover, to make something known that has been secret or unknown heretofore. In its popular and most general definition, it means anything unknown that has been brought to light, an idea that places one on the trail of what one does not know. From this point of view, all the sciences that enable us to know the mysteries of nature are revelations. And one could say that there is for us an ongoing revelation. Astronomy has revealed the sidereal world that was formerly unknown to us. Geology, the formation of the earth. Chemistry, the law of affinity. Physiology, the functions of the organism, etc. Copernicus, Galileo, Newton, Laplace, and Lavoisier were revelators. So to me, it seems like every period there's some kind of science and somebody or a group of people, they're ready to bring to light something that was considered a mystery. I believe because people at that time were ready to accept new natural laws that for them back then was a mystery. So it's like bit by bit being revealed to us, being brought to light.
Okay, thank you so much. And the key word here is ready to see, ready to understand, ready to observe, right? And basically we have Kardec coming to the semantic, the very origin of the word, terminology, right? He goes back and say, this is just to uncover. And every science is going to be uncovering to us. And he has given some example in some discipline like astronomy, geology, physiology, etc. Right? And he has named a couple of gentlemen who have been considered geniuses between quotes because they have revealed something to us. They have made us see something that was not so much clearly seen or conceived before, right? And here David add the photo of these gentlemen and the year so that we can place them in history. And David, if you'd like to talk a little bit of each of one or in their contribution or whatever was the purpose of adding this slide here, feel free to elaborate on that, please.
Yeah, I just thought it was very interesting just to go back a bit in history. And each of these 5, as you said, gentlemen, I've got these mug shots here. They all contributed so much. And the way that Kardec pulled these names out, I thought was very interesting. Copernicus, of course, he was a real polyglot and polymath. He could speak, I think, 5 or 6 languages, could understand Hebrew as well as and write in Latin. And he's been considered science as one of the most highly evolved scientists of all times. But he was famous for just before he died, he proposed the idea that we rotate around the sun. He called that the universe because that was the extent of the known universe at that. That was a time before telescopes. So that was a major, major breakthrough. And then Galileo picked that up later on, and with using, he developed the telescope. He didn't invent it, but he developed it and then confirmed what Copernicus has said. Sadly, Galileo got almost ostracized from the church. He spent the latter part of his life under home arrest, should we say, because the church completely disagreed with his findings because it contradicted the Bible. And then, of course, later on, we get Newton with all the laws of gravity and the laws of motion. And again, I think it illustrates a point that, that was a truth at the time, the gravitation and the laws of motion. But we now know, of course, through quantum physics that that's limited. Newton's laws work for, large bodies, but when you get down to small bodies, it breaks down. So again, all these scientific truths are relative. As science develops and builds on itself, things change. Nothing is ever static. Laplace was a chemist, biologist, and he started got into understanding more of the microorganisms. And then finally, Lavoisier was a mathematician. He was, and a lot of these, in fact, if you read into the characters, they were all pretty much, apart from Galileo, they were atheists as well. They did not believe in the supernatural, any god of any kind. So again, just a little bit of background onto those characters. And again, I think it was interesting why Kardec just put those 5 names. So
yeah, it is very important because we have to remember that the concept of science that we have today, right? It was not at that time. So these people, they really uncovered, right? They really fine-tuned, right? In the case of Lavoisier, for example, people used to say air, but not even consider the different kinds of air, of gases, of elements. So it's like uncovering and giving us more precise examples of all this stuff, right? But anyway, thank you so much here because it's very important for us to think and be thankful of these people because the way that we see things now is due to them, right? They were at that time, since science was not so much established, they were said to be natural philosophers because everything starts from philosophy. So whenever we hear natural philosophers, we are talking about people that we call nowadays scientists, right? But the word scientists, we're not there at that time. Kardec, even in Genesis, is going to be mentioning natural philosophers, okay? Nowadays, we have very clear the difference between a philosopher and a scientist, but that was the terminology of the time. Thank you so much, David, for that. Now let's go to number 3. Louis, can you please read it? And remember, anybody can make the comment because sometimes the person that reads pay attention to pronunciation and the diction, intonation, all this stuff, right?
Okay.
So, Louis.
Character of the Spiritist revelation. The essential characteristic of any revelation must be the truth. To reveal a secret is to make known a fact. If the thing is false, it is not a fact at all, and consequently, there is no revelation. Every revelation that is belied by the facts is no revelation at all, even though it may be attributed to God, who can neither lie nor be mistaken. It cannot have emanated from God. Hence, it must be considered as a product of human conception.
Can you paraphrase it, or somebody just can say in 2 words what we are talking about here?
They define that revelation must indeed bring forth something that is true. Something that is truth.
Okay, that is okay. This is perfect. Remember that it is uncover real reality, right? And real has to do with thing, what is, what's not questionable, right? Real coming from rea, which is thing in Latin, right? So that's very good to see, mainly for us nowadays, in which we live in a society when there is so much social media pronouncing realities and truth that are fake news, Could you imagine? So it's good for us to see that this is revealing what is true. And we are in a role that it's sometimes difficult to sort out what is true and what is not true. Because everybody, it's not natural philosopher, but everybody has owned the word to pronounce a truth, to pronounce what is possibly true, right? But it's interesting for us to think backwards and come back nowadays. What is the truth discovering process all about? Nicole, yeah?
I think it's worth mentioning that the concept of truth it's not that the truth changes throughout time, but sometimes our understanding of it changes. I read some time ago that in philosophy there are I don't remember the word now, but my God, I forgot. Well, truths change throughout time because we change our point of view. We study more and we learn more, and sometimes what was considered truth before is not anymore.
Exactly.
So
it's like a curtain. It's like a curtain that we open, and the more we open the curtain, more the reality appears to us, right?
Yeah, I was going to say that truth is relative. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, it is our truth is relative, right? We can never say that the truth itself is relative. It's our truth. The way that we uncover truth is ever growing, right? And in philosophy, you mentioned philosophy, and thank you for that as well. Whenever we analyze a scientific discourse, a scientific work, and if there is something you're going to be adjusting, we do what we call an epistemological cut. We cut it and we change a little bit. That's epistemology, the science of understanding the scientific discourse, right? So that's good. Good. Thank you so much. Let's go to number 4 here and see anybody else. Ricardo, would you like to volunteer?
I'll volunteer.
Because remember that he talked about the word truth. He talked about the process of uncovering name, and now he's going to be talking about those who generate and those who teach truth.
Okay, character of the Spiritist revelation. What is the role of a teacher with regards to his or her students, if not that of a revelator? The teacher teaches them what they do not know, what they would have neither the time nor the ability to discover by themselves, because knowledge is the collective work of centuries and of great many individuals, which having contributed his or her share of observations, from which those who come afterward may benefit. Teaching is thus, in reality, the revelation of certain scientific, moral, physical, and metaphysical truths, given by individuals who know about them to others who do not, and who would have continued to be ignorant of them otherwise.
Anybody like to comment this passage? Because he's equating teacher as revelators. Have you ever thought of that before?
Yeah, this is Marcelo. So it's pretty much like continuing what he was saying earlier, that it's revealing the truth. And a teacher is a great example. The teacher is not making up the truth. It's just revealing the knowledge that he has acquired before.
Exactly. It's like transmitting what somebody else has uncovered, right? Just as a side note, this is Kardec again, the way that he develops rationale. He always give us something theoretical, and then he comes to analogy and brings to life a down-to-earth example, right? You may continue here to finish Ricardo. Now he's going to give, however, huh?
However, teachers teach only what they themselves have learned. They are revelators of a second order. Geniuses, on the other hand, teach what they have discovered firsthand. They are original revelators. They contribute the light that is gradually popularized. Where, where would humankind be without revelation by the geniuses who appear from time to time?
Okay, now he's putting parallel teachers and geniuses. So what do we understand by geniuses so far? Reading so far, right? Deriving from what we have covered so far, right?
Somebody
Any
who
word for
has
geniuses?
some insight that we don't have. Somebody that has insights beyond the ordinary. So they uncover, they discover, they learn something new that we, ordinary people, just couldn't
Okay.
figure out.
Yeah, and that's the meaning here that he's using. He's not talking about any supernatural, right? No. So much that here we have geniuses, ES, because if you're talking about the genie of the lamp or like a ghost, we have here the plural genie with double E in English, right? That's a very good translation in this aspect, because this is coming from homme de génie of French, those who have insight, those who reveal, right? And good interpretation, Luis, very good. Now, teacher are revelators of second order. Why?
Because they have to learn from someone else first.
Yeah, so it comes in layer, right? Like the revealing is in cascade. So the revelation, if you do the other way around, the genius are the revelators of the first order, right? If we just read it the other way around, right? Interesting, because he started with however, because now he's going to be putting something else to compare to teacher. Okay. Now it's a continuation here. Nicole, would you mind reading?
But what are these geniuses? Why are they geniuses? Where do they come from? What becomes of them? Let us note that, for the most part, they bring at birth transcendent faculties and innate knowledge, which a little effort is sufficient to develop. They very much belong to humankind since they are born, live and die like the rest of us. So, from where have they derived such knowledge, which they could not have acquired from their present existence? Might one say, along with the materialists, that chance has given them a greater quantity and better quality of cerebral matter? If that were the case, they would have no more merit than a vegetable that is larger and tastier than another.
Then we have a little bit of humor here, right?
Yes.
I could see it from the smile of Nicole when she read it, right? It was like twinkling the mind here, right? So, any comments or anything you'd like to appreciate in terms of style or whatever, in terms of revelation, what he's saying, developing his thought? How did he start his paragraph? Does he start with questions? Does he start with statements? Or does he start to say what it's not? He preferred questions,
because,
right?
Yeah, he questions, and I believe that he is starting talking about reincarnation, because if there's only one life, so okay, what's the point? Because he's smarter than me, so and now what,
Yeah. You nailed it, right? Because if he had put the word reincarnation beforehand, that would prevent people from go on reading firsthand. Second, that would give the connotation of something mystical, religious, and he is using science and he using rhetorical question to develop a rationale. He's advancing and introducing a subject by means of question. It means that we as reader are following him in questioning. He's training us to pose question. This is part of the Socratic method. We're going to see later on that another part of it is say what it's not before what it is. That's another technique. This is part of the meuitics. Again, this is called in Latin maieutica, meiutics in English, but it's very good. So posing the question here, and then at the end, analogy again, right? If that were the case, they would have no more merit than a vegetable is larger in taste than another. Okay. Let's continue here. Would you mind reading, Carol? Camila, let's go Camila here. Carol did today. It was my misreading here. Camila.
Team. Might one say?
Yeah, might one say.
So might one say, along with certain spiritualists, that God has blessed them with a soul more highly endowed than that of ordinary individuals? That would be a completely illogical supposition, since it would accuse God of being partial. The only rational solution to the problem lies in the pre-existence of the soul and the plurality of existences. Geniuses are spirits who have existed longer and who, consequently, have acquired more and progressed further than those who are less advanced. Upon incarnating, they bring what they know, and since they know much more than others without having to learn it, they are called geniuses. But what they know is none other than the fruit of previous accomplishment and not the result of privilege. Incarnation. Mm-hmm.
Is that clear? Does it need extra elaboration?
The only question I have about this is, let's say like in a previous life, I was German and I knew the language fluently. I wouldn't be able to come to this life, even with the knowledge I had of the previous one, and be able to like regurgitate the entire language. Yet they can come to this life and pretty much bring about their entire knowledge without having to relearn it. Like there's no like small little inkling that kind of pushes them in that direction. Like there's no one to teach them a little bit and they just pick up on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You touched something very interesting, which is language, right? And I'm going to be sharing a little bit of linguistic knowledge here. We think in English is sort of difficult because we have just one word. It's called language. If we go to the Roman languages, we are going to have two words. One is lingua. The other one is linguage, langage, langue. As if we were talking about like tongue, but not tongue, the organ, like mother tongue. As in British, they say, what's your mother tongue? Not your native language, right? So one thing is the tongue between quote, which is a specific language. The other thing is the capacity to convey message, which is language, the more abstract. Human being, according to the latest discoveries by Noam Chomsky belongs to the Senate of the United States. He's a linguist, right? We have the same structure, which is called deep structure, transcendental structure, and we can accommodate any specific local, national language, meaning tongue, mother tongue, right? So while we learn, we understand the universe, we convey, we pass on. In this case, I'm using one language here, right? I can shift to another language, but necessarily in the spirit world, in the deep mind, we have the transcendental deep structure of language, which is a universal pattern that enables man to communicate. It is easier for us from Latin world to understand this lingua, linguage, langue, langage, oui? Lengua, lenguaje, because it is, one is the materialization in a context, in a society, as an element of a culture, right? Which is compounded by sounds and meaning and a reference. Because when I say cat, everybody thinks of a different cat. But the sound cat in English, C-A-T, it is linked to an image of an animal that belongs to a certain category of feline, right? Feline, feline here. But this is when we come from other life, we bring in our perispit our experience. And among our experience is the exercise of a language that was local, but it's not necessary. I mean, limited to my understanding as soul, spirit, to that language. Because I have a universal, deep structure that enable me to socialize, communicate, see the universe, convey the idea, exchange, modify, and progress. Is there anybody that raised the hand here?
But Carlos, but it doesn't
Yep.
mean that we're gonna have access to it. We're gonna be limited in this life, right? To the
We are
type of
limited in
knowledge.
every existent. We are limited by definition to start with by our body, by our brain, by our organs, and by the society. Because if I was born, if in my next reincarnation, when I come and I am born, or I'll be born in a very primitive, rudimentary, as far as technology as we know, tribe, right? I'm gonna be limited in resources as well. What is available there? It doesn't mean that my spirit is gonna be reduced in nature, that my spirit is gonna be deprived. What I'm gonna be deprived of is from the availability of resources surrounding me and my body and the quality of my brain, right?
But then when we pass on, it doesn't mean they're still gonna have knowledge, access to that knowledge, right? Because a lot of spirits are still very conditioned when they pass on to communicate in the language that they are accustomed with, right? So it doesn't mean that it will come to my, conscience level right away when I pass on, like, oh, okay, I knew German. Now I can understand German. And one of the things that a lot of spirits have problems with is like one that discarnated and knew only English, they are not able to talk to a medium who speaks only Portuguese because, there's a missing link there.
Yeah,
So
but
when is the step
now
that
we are
we
talking
start
about
to
communication between
have that?
discarnate and incarnate, right? Discarnate and incarnate. If we go back to the paragraph in which I am born with some experience, with some knowledge, that to this present existence, it appears to others that I'm geniuses. The only thing is I have far more access, and I bring from previous existence some knowledge, some experience, right? Some sensations and feelings, right? Because the paragraph here it's not the link in incarnate discarnate, and he's not even touched yet the inspiration, right? It's far more an intuition process than an inspiration process, right? Because I'm bringing from plurality of existence. Okay.
But then how do geniuses bring back such not like how can they access such knowledge? Because sometimes they discover things that no one even thought of. Or like how could they if it's
This is something that's building up in their own existence. For example, we may go to domain of music, we go to domain of theater, to domain of science. So this is something that I've learned before. A very, very, very good example of, for example, he touched Copernicus. Copernicus was the first one that started introducing in a systematic way the heliocentric system. But 18 centuries before, 1,008 years before, the heliocentric message was already being done by a Greek person, right? So what I mean is, it is everything in my unconscious, not on my conscious level. It's my unconscious level is stored in my history as a spirit with plurality of existence. So if I do something extraordinary like Newton, like Laplace, Lavoisier, Galileo, right? It gives the society the idea they are geniuses, that they genius in the sense that you say they are over gifted, but it's not a matter of partial distribution of gifts, of talent from the part of God. It's a matter of accrual of experience, of wisdom from previous experience in life, incarnate life, not discarnate life. Okay, that's why.
Yeah. Sorry, I think Marcelo wanted to. He had his hand up for a while. Marcelo Paiva.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I couldn't see his hand here.
Yeah.
No worries. This is not to extend this comment too long, but the idea that you have to remember that we all have our incarnation planning. Even if Copernicus or Galileo or Newton, they were atheists, they were still an incarnate spirit. And they have plans before they agreed to incarnate. And unconsciously, they bring this knowledge and they are able to decode things that they see as us, like younger spirits. We don't have that decodification ability. So you may say they are decoding, you may say they are being inspired by higher order spirits to review the new knowledge to their specific planet. Another example in terms of language is the Capella exiles, right? They came from another planet to help Earth, this new planet, to progress, right, intellectually. So I think there are so many things. We have to remember we are all spirits, and there's a higher mission, order, and instructions for us to execute here.
Okay, very good addition. Very, 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 very plausible, logical. Thank you so much, Marcelo. Okay. A short, very short paragraph that triggered all this conversation, which I like that it happened, because most of the time, because of time, we pass and we do not develop, and we continue with the very same question. But that's good. Thank you so much, Camila, for bringing this. And here we have you added this slide, right?
Yeah, I thought we'd get to this stage last week, but I had set up just a couple of videos because when I had it, the logistics of doing it now when you're presenting, it's probably difficult. But what I suggest everybody just go onto Google, on YouTube, and just type in child prodigies, and it's just amazing to see 5-year-old children playing Mozart, or another one is a boy called Greg Smith who went to college at the age of 10. And again, these are just real examples. And for me, it just really cements this concept. I mean, it's not a concept, it's proof. It's proof of our abilities that, as you said, we've accrued from previous existences. So again, I just recommend YouTube, child prodigies, and it's just amazing, some of these young children who bring forward these abilities and talents from accrued existences. That was all.
Yeah. An additional thing for us to think, because at the time of Kardec, psychology didn't tell apart the difference between intuition and inspiration, right? Sometimes he used one term by the other. But just for us, for now on, to understand it better, whenever we talk about something that is coming from us, from previous experience, or for an unconscious mind, even this experience, we are talking about intuition. It's something that is coming from inside. Whenever something comes from outside, maybe from a discarnate or incarnate, it's inspiration. My mother may inspire me even if she is still incarnate, so hypothetically speaking, right? So whenever this insight or this understanding coming from an outside force, we talk about inspiration. Whenever we're talking about something that we regain from our own existence, is an intuition. Because sometimes even we, when we're praying, say, let's ask the good spirits to by intuition to help us. They inspire us. Intuition coming from me, from my experience, something that is laying stored there in my unconscious, in my previous experience. Thank you so much for this child project. And if next time, if you'd like just to start with one as inspirational point, David, that's going to be a good idea because it's really inspirational. So select one for our starting with, because this is going to be opening, and also it's a very good way of observing something extraordinary. And we call them geniuses, we call them prodigies, as if they were over gifted once in this existence, right? But this is a reading from ourselves with that after Spiritism, the knowledge was clarified, purified, and now it's far more easier for us to understand that, right? Let's have one more here before we finish, because we approaching 10:30. Anybody would like to volunteer to read? For me not to point out, just say I feel like reading.
I feel like reading.
Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry. Go.
Of course, human beings progress by themselves and through the efforts of their intelligence, but left to their own devices, such progress is very slow. If they are not helped by more advanced individuals, just as students are helped by their teachers. All cultures have their geniuses who have come at various times to give an impulse and draw them out of their inertia.
Okay. John, I don't know if my screen is cut at the first paragraph. I don't think it showed up in your iPad or mobile, but there was a very short paragraph with 3 lines. I don't know if you can see it. Before birth, they were already advanced spirits.
Let's see. Before birth, of course, by their own devices.
Yes, one paragraph above, of course, where you started, right?
Okay, I can read that. Before birth, they were already advanced spirits. They reincarnate either to enable others to benefit from what they know or to acquire further knowledge for themselves.
Okay, so this is something that I like, because we have the 2 movement of growth. We cannot grow by ourselves alone, right? This is the part of the co-creation, right? Either I'm here to benefit others or to get more knowledge from me, more advanced, right? Any effort from our side that is egocentric, say, I'm just here, I'm improving myself, no matter what the other one are doing, they're going to have their time to discover their own time, their own pace. This is sort of a very, very limited approach of life. It doesn't mean that I'm really pushing myself upwards, because the more I help people to go, the more I go further, right? So here we have the co-creation and advance of the spirit. This is something for us to think about. What about Kardec now, right? 150 years afterwards, what has he been doing, either there or here? But we never know, but there is be a move, right? Now, this was the page 404, so I'm not going to be initiating number 6, which is going to be for next time. And next time we're going to have a starting point. Patricia, you raised the hand before you finish.
Yeah, I would like to ask something. I will try to speak. My voice is not good today. So about Genesis and Revelation. If we start from the principle that someone brings knowledge from another existence, thinking about plurality of existences. If something was not revealed before, it's completely new. So how that person can bring something from the past. So in my mind, I think about not just plurality of existence, but plurality of the words. Because then we will not be from this planet alone. We'll be bringing back from another place.
Yeah.
And this part is not touched here. He doesn't speak about that.
It's a very, very good question. Marcelo answered partially when he mentioned Capella as well, right? Whenever we talk about plurality of existence, plurality of the world, they can go hand in hand in terms of bringing experience, right? It doesn't mean whenever we have truth, it doesn't mean that the truth is prevailing all over. I can be a scientist, or I can be a philosopher in one existence that perhaps I had no voice to. We had an example here because after Copernico, Galileo, he expanded in solidified Copernico heliocentrism. But at that time, he just confronted the Pope, and by confronting the Pope, he was forced to recant, to say, I don't believe anymore on this, just to save his life, and he was condemned to be in his house arrested. And later on, we are going to be coming back with Newton. We're going to be coming back and then reinforcing the idea. So the fact that we discovered, we have an insight, we studied, it doesn't mean that it has reached the domain of universality and domain of science. That happened also, for example, Lavoisier, he discovered many, many things, but he was guillotined at the French Revolution, right? So he discovered many things related to combining the gases, discovered the explanation for respiration, carbonization, for rusting of fire. But later on, somebody else grasped that in the chemistry field and made it as universal truth, right?
So
but he was extinguished here, which means that when he reincarnates, his knowledge is already there, even though it was not well known, spread, or considered a revealed truth. Laplace, for example, Laplace was very clever because he was not guillotined, and he lived in the terror movement of France and the French Revolution, but he was very political. So he discovered many things, but he didn't reveal many things in order to preserve. So in this case, it comes back with the spirit. It doesn't mean that.
The point you're saying, I understand, because you're talking about knowledge that is being development, the development of ideas, little by little, from centuries to another century. These are blocks of information. But what I was touching more, and Marcelo Paiva touched it about his own understanding and other thinking. But I was talking about the book, about Kardec. He didn't go deep about that. He's following a logic, but he didn't finish that. It's that point that I was touching. And of course, if someone is bringing parts of knowledge and developing what others had done, is okay. But I was talking more about something completely new for the earth. That point. And that Kardec in the book didn't talk about that.
It is sort of, I think it's sort of too much early to state that, because we are still number 5, because he's going to be mentioning also later on the book. There will be a part in the book in Genesis. He's going to be talking about collective discarnation and collective immigration. There will come. But you're right. So far, he just limited himself so far to say what is revealed, what is a genius, give example of 4 or 5 genius, and place teachers together of genius, and later on to start saying that these genius, they are not result of when it started with reincarnation. But I'm not going to be advancing, but your answer is going to be answered after half of the book. because he's going to be talking about Capella and other things as well. Okay.
Yeah, but a quick note is that Kardec, he is very impartial. So like this past pages, he gives an example for the materialists, and then he talks about for the spiritualists, right? He tries to balance because he's building the rationale throughout the book. So he's like a reporter. He's supposed to be impartial.
It's true. And David, as my timekeeper, he's read saying that we have to finish because we have gone through. But anyway,
Karen, just suggest stop the share, and then you can see all the faces on one screen.
Yeah.
So
okay.
It makes it easier to communicate. There we go.
Okay. That's okay. That's okay. It is easy because you don't have to roll up and down. And sorry if I made you roll up and down, right? But I would like just to have the text, because sometimes you start adding ideas and questions and we depart from the text, right? But
I don't know,
we have to advance the rationale together with him. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult. But anyway, it was a very good discussion indeed. I appreciate a lot all your comments, elaborations, questions, concerns, because that's a way of really rendering honor to a guy that stimulates so much questioning to discover truth, right? So let's go to our final prayer. Anybody would like to volunteer for the final prayer? Anybody feel like praying, guiding us together? Is there any natural move from you guys?
I'm not sure if my mic is okay, but I can pray.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. So I invite us all to close our eyes, take a deep breath, try to connect with the high spirits, but also imagining us holding our hands, feeling one another, feeling how together we are in learning this knowledge, this revelation. Lord, thanks for this opportunity. Embrace us all with your love, your care, guiding us through our own steps at our own time that may reveal how wonderful you are. May we all have a wonderful week. May we reflect on what we learned today. And may we reunite again next week. So be it.
So be it. Fair hug for you, Marcelo. Thank you so much.
So be it.
People, until next Sunday, at the very same time, with the very same enthusiasm and lots of questions, please. Bye.
Hi, everyone.